All right. Well, welcome back to the channel, folks. Now, when I started this channel, Collis, this channel was started in Jamaica, more or less to capture the memories of the vacation.
Okay.
But the bigger picture behind the channel was to do RC related stuff, related content, right? But there might be a few videos on the channel regarding the vacation trip to Jamaica. But mainly the channel would be about model, whatever, RC helicopters, planes and stuff like that, right? When I decided to do this, the first thing that popped into my mind was to start interviewing hobbyists on the island here in Tobago. Whatever discipline, car, truck, boat, whichever, as time goes along. But I thought first, I would like to interview you for two reasons. The first reason is that you were the person that I think in my mind somebody could somebody could
See otherwise.
But you are the first person I saw in Tobago that actually fly a model plane as a Tobagonian. And that's stood out in my mind all these years. I think I saw a guy a day in Montgomery years ago. I was a white guy. I don't know if he was on vacation or what, flying a plane. But locally, you are the first person I ever saw fly a model plane in Tobago. And land back. And land back. I didn't say that, eh? Take off, fly, and land back. Right? That is one. And two, now remember, I started out this hobby on the ground, driving my truck, RC truck. Gosh, nitro-powered RC truck.
Yes.
Right? And then I heard that there were some guys by the stadium doing a thing, and I went up there. You were one of the guys there flying at the time. Well, them days all I was trying, no taking off. Right? The flying thing. And I remember you telling me, boy, get into the flying hobby, get into the flying, I said, nah, me I like playing, me and this, me and that, me and the other. You know, but eventually you swayed me, and I think I bought a little 450.
Yes.
And started honing my skills on that. Then one day you said, Jason, gotta get a bigger helicopter. They're more stable, they're easier to fly and thing. And you gave me your helicopter, which was a bigger, I think was it Thunder Tiger.
Yes, Thunder Tiger. Yeah, Thunder Tiger. At the time, yes.
Yeah, Thunder Tiger. And you said, hover it, man, you could do it. And that stood out in my mind because I said, oh, man gave me how much $1,000 helicopter to hover and thing, right? So those two things stand out in my mind. So I said, in this endeavor here, I had to interview Collis first, right? In this series of interviews that should follow. So everybody else who have RC in Tobago, watch out. You're coming in this seat sometime soon. I must say thanks for that. And we could now head into the chat we're gonna have. I don't think it's an interview, it's more a chat. Right?
Well, first of all, before you go anywhere, let me say thank you for having me and having me for the first time, especially on your channel. Big up, what is the name of the channel again?
It's Lifestyle, Adventures, and Hobbies.
Big up, Jason, Lifestyle, Adventures, and Hobbies. You'll be seeing that sign across here soon enough. So thanks for having me as your first guest.
So I just thought I would have you here and maybe discuss. I mean, that's over the years what has happened. But this is specifically about you, though. Right? This will be about you. Right? So I have a few questions I would like to ask.
That's all right.
To get this thing on the road. Right? You know, everything does mess up when you had them plan a certain kind of way.
Too much of technology.
Too much of technology is right, you know. So I had my questions here, I know like I messed them up. But right, back on track. Yeah, Collis. Well, the first thing I think I would like to know, or the people would like to know, is who is Collis, and how did you get interested in this hobby?
Okay.
How that evolved?
All right. Well, my name is Collis Edwards. I'll be 61 March 18th this year.
Chain up
I would have started the hobby more than 20 years ago, so I would have been in my 40s, early 40s when I started, or approaching that when I started the hobby. Who am I? I was a guy who was married for 17 years prior. I was in the midst of a divorce, and for some reason, I was online looking at some guys flying. And I don't know, something about that just overtook me. And you would not know, but divorce could be a very difficult soul-searching, trying process. When I got into RC just did it for me. RC was stress relieving. RC gave me something to focus on. RC gave me confidence in myself again. And I think more than that, as we'll probably developed, when the group was formed eventually, that was a great way to express my own feelings and thoughts and a discussion. So I got into it primarily because I was going through a very difficult phase in my life, and I just happened to bump into RC, and that's where it all got started.
That's where it started. Okay, cool. Well, that is good to hear that you that sort of refocused.
Oh yes.
I remember that time in Truth, you were living in Colorado.
Yes,
I remember that time in Truth.
I moved out from my marital home, and I was living. Yes, correct.
Every day. Okay, cool. And that is over.
More than 20 years now. More than 20 years now.
Doing this thing by more than 20 years.
More than 20 years now.
Yeah, because man, like more than 20 years now.
If I may add at this point, one of the fond memories I had though was the first time I flew the aircraft was a Alpha. Oh, that would come later in the interview.
Okay.
We'll
bring that later in the interview. You didn't run in the interview. I ran in the interview.
Okay, sir. My apologies, sir. Look how guys, this is what he's coming with.
I ran in the interview.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's cool. Right? So can you remember now? What is the first thing you fly? What was the first thing you got and flew?
Right.
What is the one that I saw or before that you mash up?
Yes. I mash up a few well. Well, the craft I must credit with my first journey would have been the Alpha Trainer.
Okay, yeah.
The Alpha Trainer was a box kind of shape RC aircraft.
Docile.
With flat wings, very docile. It came already set up basically with engine on. You just had to put on the prop and you had to put the wheels.
Yeah.
And the radio was already kind of preset as a simple radio. And a very tame aircraft. Yeah. Very, very tame aircraft. That didn't require that much experience. And when I put that Alpha up in the air, it was out at the stadium. The stadium was very bushy at the time.
You know, as you said, all that recently, I said all that indoor facility and parade square.
Yes, that wasn't there.
That
was just bush and cows. Remember, you had some dodgy cows when you were flying.
Yeah, and we used to go and cut that on a Saturday.
Exactly, we used to come and cut
and cut the grass on a Saturday.
Correct.
Yeah, that is true.
So when I first started, there was a lot of bush, and when I took off with the Alpha, and the Alpha climbed out, fortunately enough, I don't know, something about it, I was able to keep it in the air. Having read the basics, I did a lot of research. But I didn't know how to land. I remember some therapeutic guys were doing some job there. They were looking at me flying. But I'm not landing because I had no idea how to land. I want to wait until they moved. But I ran out of gas.
Yeah.
And Jason, whatever knowledge I had in my head in terms, because it wasn't practical. It was I'm now flying.
Yeah.
And I'm coming in. Well, all I can say, I landed and I broke a wing, but at least I landed. The rest of the aircraft was okay.
It was okay.
It was the most exciting and exhilarating feeling, though. It really, really gave me. I said, this is where I'm going to focus.
And that is the point when you realize,
yes, this going to be a pathway out of course.
Okay,
for more than 20 years.
And that was going to be
now.
the next question. When you realize that, this is what I want to do as a hobby.
The thing about RC, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, is that it can become very involved. One, you have to learn to fly. In those days, we didn't have the the fancy technology you have now. You actually have to put it up in the air to fly it.
Yeah.
You had to learn to do your own engines because you didn't have anybody you could refer to. You did a bit of reading that you could, so everything was on you. So it was very involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
could consume you.
Oh
all
yes, it can
day.
consume you. It can consume
Yeah,
you.
I remember in work. In work and
I didn't think it.
because you want to go and fly later, And those days too, I remember clearly the radio setup was mathematically had to
correct.
calculator.
That's correct.
Especially with the helicopters to set up the curves and stuff like that.
Yes.
So that was the first plane.
Yeah, that was the first plane.
When you decided to slip into helicopters?
Well, interesting thing was, first of all, I crashed out a few Alpha as well. Very durable planes. Even now, with the modern technology, I advise anybody who wants to get into RC that the Alpha is a really, really tame train and very tough.
You know, just said that what I remember? Collis, we used to crash and we used to be on the boat going Trinidad.
That's correct.
Parts and all.
That's correct. In fact, the important thing to remember was that part of our gears when we went out to fly wasn't just the toolkit, it was a garbage bag.
Yeah, true.
And the garbage bag was meant to run and collect the parts. When we crashed, put them together, and then we learned to glue and build and basically build the plane all over again. Like just keep patching.
True.
So that was that. Now I've flown a lot of Alphas, and then one day I don't have it chronologically correct. Sure. I don't think so. But one day I got into this stick. These stick helicopters they used to have stick. They push them together. They had a tail motor.
Yes.
And yes. I can't remember. Yeah. What I remember was a guy from the States used to supply me. I didn't know him. I can't remember how we got in contact. But I used to send him money for him, and he'd buy this stuff because I didn't know of any place he could have gotten in Tobago, and he just sent it down for us. But it was a very difficult to control helicopter.
Yes, I remember them.
They're small, very difficult to control.
It was like a carbon fiber rod.
Yes, correct.
A little motor. Yeah,
correct.
I remember. Yeah.
And that was so engaging because, of course, it's a lot more controls now. Before, when the plane was just your throttle, and you're not that much. You get elevator to climb out and to land, and ailerons were tame, but with the helicopter now was something you're trying to control on all axes.
All axes, yeah, true.
And you had no, like I said, you had no trade. You had no, we all
formal
use now.
training.
And we all use now.
Simulator?
No simulator, nothing.
No simulator.
So you're learning by crash. So imagine you're trying to lift a helicopter off the ground and you are learning while you're doing that. Boy, you mashed up a few of those things well. By the way, it's an expensive sport. I did spend a lot of money.
Yeah, it's expensive.
A lot of money because they crashed. Yeah. I tried to replace them.
Yeah, because you want to.
Yes, you want to learn.
Trying to get back one, get back another one.
Yeah. So like how somebody could have gone on the new guys now go on the simulator and learn. We had to, if you're not supposed to go, you actually do it.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that way.
I had to burn to learn.
Exactly, I had to burn to learn. So it was this stick stuff I was flying for a while. And I enjoyed doing that until one day when, by that time you'd have come into the sport and we went down to Island Hobbies.
Yeah.
And I saw this Thunder Tiger 30.
Thunder Tiger 30.
And I found the money and I got myself a Thunder Tiger 30. At that time, that cost me almost $10,000.
Yeah, took
at the time.
Everything. Start up. You had to get things to put in the gas.
That took a lot of effort and planning and learning and getting into it.
So you had to set up the engine.
Yes. You had to learn setup now, which is totally different now.
It's a whole different kettle of fish. Whole different kettle of fish.
Oh, yes.
So so you learned to fly helicopters by trial and
correct error. With those small stick ones, which I came to realize after was actually more difficult to fly than the actual helicopters.
They're too twitchy.
Correct.
That aspect could be debated. Some people swear by it, by a smaller helicopter. So when you crash, but I think the cost benefit analysis. If you buy the bigger one, it might.
It works out.
You wouldn't crash as much
as you would do.
You really wouldn't crash as much
because they are really difficult to.
Yeah, they're really difficult to keep up in the air.
Yes.
So So what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
I think the biggest challenges I faced was one parts, because with a helicopter or plane, the plane it was easier because you could always build back get some plywood thing and build back, foam thing and build back.
Balsa wood,
But balsa wood, that was the thing. Yeah. Find balsa wood somewhere, you make your own kind of wood and fix it back. But with the helicopters, you had to actually get the part. Finding parts was difficult. Because at the time, only when I first started, I wasn't aware of island hobbies in Trinidad. So he started waiting a guy to send them for me from the States.
Okay.
So I used to send him money to, I used to send them for me. I can't remember his name right now. Probably go back in history. And so he used to send it down for me. I used to wait until that come in, and I used to fly down. So any little part damage, you can't get it. I just send for that part again.
But during that waiting period, I mean, I know Simsha just waiting to
That's the point, just waiting to crash again. Thank you. In fact, I have a video right now home still of in the where I was staying called hall. I'm trying to fly in the little space. I'm always challenging myself.
Yeah.
And to see me fly and then crash into those cupboards, it's a pain. It's a pain, but you had to learn somewhere.
Yeah, I crashed a few times in here.
And the interesting thing about that as well was that at that time, so Mr. Gift and what is this guy's name again? Dave had come into the sport. And the interesting thing was, we used to have to look for community centers. We used to actually drive around looking for community centers to go into to fly. Because of course, the craft is that light that it's not that stable on the outside.
Yeah,
the wind.
Yeah.
I remember we went to Signal Community Center. We went to a community center in Canaan. We were just sorting out these different community centers.
Yeah.
And GIF has a little influence, and we'll go in and we'll try to fly in the community center. We learn a bit. We got a bit of a break in those centers. Yes, in those centers. Yeah. But it doesn't matter flying and crashing.
And crashing. The helicopter was small. I think I remember getting one of those,
Very difficult to control.
Yeah, very difficult.
After a while, Gifts approach us this. Flip up.
Yeah, straight up.
because to lift it off the ground was difficult.
It was difficult, yeah.
So once it gives you that boop, and then come on.
Hit the ground, grab. Skids and them spread out so.
But they were good times because they really they took a lot of, they were entertaining, they were challenging to learn, and it was fun. It was fun times.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I remember. I don't remember the community center part, but I remember those little helicopters. So I think I even got one after.
Yes.
And I mean, them back in those days, you don't want to sleep unless you acquire this thing or you meet this certain level. You're flying in your house all night or outside.
You're outside flying.
And that kind of thing.
That was the dedication it took.
Yeah. But how long did it take you to actually get comfortable flying?
That's interesting. I think because I was flying planes before. Mm-hmm. You gotta have a feel for the controls a bit. So although helicopter required these varied controls because you already had a feel, it wasn't as difficult. No, that's not true. I was able to get to it a little faster because I had the experience with the planes. I think if I had started helicopter initially, it would have been extremely difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, but the planes because you had a feel for the controls, right? But it was consistent involvement, flying and spending. Yeah, because you had to replace and had to get part. And I did a lot of reading as well. Because I tried to read and see how some guys got through with it and all that. Yeah. But like it is a lot. I remember the first time I actually hovered. It was the most exciting feeling. It was like having sex for the first time.
Yeah. You remember?
Imagine you having a helicopter that can go left, go right, go front, go back, literally roll, and you can actually have that object balanced in the air. Now that was like sex.
I was telling a guy recently, helicopters are a whole different thing.
Oh yes,
in that even though you want to go right and you swing right, if you do that without banking, it's just gonna spin around in one spot.
That's correct.
So it's a whole different discipline. Your two hands had to be working tandem. To really get it where you want to keep it and that kind of stuff, But so in the hobby now, after you do the planes and you get the helicopter, you mash up a few, you get your Thunder Tiger. What was the milestone now? What particular milestone of achievement could you pinpoint anywhere inside there where you say, well, yes, I get it now?
I think the milestone, that's an interesting question. I think the milestone for me was when I started flying jets.
Yeah.
Because jets were a totally different set of fish. It was unlike the Alpha trainer. Like you could just leave in the air, kind of floating around. Your takeoff had to be on point and your landing had to be on point. If you took off
with the jets.
Okay. If you took off the one I bought is coming to mind. I bought
Collis Edwards. Fly everything.
If you took off too slowly, you could just roll back into the ground.
True.
And if you try to land too slowly, you could roll into the ground. And I remember that jet, I bought it in a Island of Bees. I started building the plane on the boat coming up. Because that one they had to build, right?
Yeah, you had to build that. I remember that was the kind of
Yes,
flaps
yes, it flaps everything. I started building that plane. I was so excited. When I eventually got it on the ground, I was a bit scared to go, but I had the confidence of the experiences before in terms of the other flights.
Yeah.
And when I took off with that, that was to the front. We used to fly
By the car park in the back, by the training field.
Training field.
Yeah.
Because that's the ground we used to take off at that time. By that time, and when I took off with that plane, boy, that was a sweet feeling. And then to land without damaging it, that was one of the high points. That's really one of the high points. But I can tell you, the high point would have already been the time that I hovered a helicopter. That was a supreme feeling.
Yeah. But you guys got through a lot of models.
Oh yes, we did. We did spent a lot of money because as soon as one crashed, they sort of want to lose the standard you've come at. You have because you have any simulator, so you sort of want to lose that. They try to replace that model as fast as you can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, boy.
And you should remember the days when we used to go head down Trinidad,
I tell you,
straight to Island Hobbies and straight back up.
I tell you, buddy, from the time you break apart, you can't make no part, you know nothing. Them days, you know 3D printer.
Exactly.
You're back on the boat the same night, going Trinidad, you want the part.
You want the part, okay, you want to fly.
I bought a Savage truck by Island Hobbies and I take it out the box. And I turn my arm on the board, put on the table, and everybody want to see a thing, big truck. You know, so those were really
those were great
nice times, you know. Those were nice times.
They're really great.
But what stands out in my mind in your flying back then, well, later down, those days we used to come down when we used to be in the back by the field out there.
Yes, we had built something that we used to have stuff on the table and stuff.
When you bought that big giant.
Yes.
And I think that's the
biggest one that so far. Yes.
I think that's the biggest gas plane in Tobago.
I still have it home.
We gotta do a video on that.
Yes.
Come and get some shots.
Yes.
At that plane. that plane. How much time did you fly that plane?
Well, it wasn't as often as I probably have wanted, but it flew. Every time I was in the air, it looked like a real plane because of the size of it. I flew really well, but I don't think I flew as often as I would have flown the nitro planes.
True.
Yeah.
And the plane was a little bigger. It was way bigger.
Oh yes.
So to get out there, we need to set it up and then time
way
and
bigger.
then.
I had to use different servos at the time because I guess I wasn't aware of the powerful servos you guys do use now. So I had to use some bigger servos on it for the control services. And by then, that had come in with its own flaps, and so it was a different setup. But it was nice to fly.
But it's flyable, or
I cannibalized the servos.
Oh, okay.
But it could fly otherwise.
But
I started the engine sometime. It started okay, but it's still intact. The wing is okay. Just to put back all the servos, I cannibalized them to do some stuff. But it's still there. I always look at it because it gives me a good feeling. I say close. No, it's interesting. I don't like to fly like in real planes because
I know that.
Because when I close the door, my safety is dependent on the pilot.
Yeah.
And when I began to fly RC, I became even more scared of planes because you have to fix everything on the ground.
Yeah.
One lesson I learned with RC: if you get in trouble on the ground,
don't
go up.
But you know what I'm saying? The smaller man in there that want to go up still.
You know how many times that the engine get in trouble on the ground, it's not idling, but it's sort of like just take off.
Yeah, you take off. So you got clear top
up there. When you go up there, when you check in, and the important thing I learned also is pre-flights check.
Yeah.
Jason, if you ignore those pre-flights check when you go up there. And an interesting thing I discovered with flying is that you don't have to take off.
No.
You don't have to take off because you're all there waiting on the plane. But the minute you take off,
you know some men did that.
They wipe the plane. They run it along the come back and they pack it away, you know. Yeah. But the minute you take off, you must land.
Yeah, that is true.
Now, how you land?
You have to land.
It's up to you and the plane, but you must land. So when you leave the ground partners, you have to land. So that made me more scared of real flying because you realize that so much goes into ensuring
and keeping this plane.
Correct. Keep the plane up in the sky.
You know?
Any mistake on the ground at all, you pay for it up in the.
True. That is why before the real planes take off, you see the pilot walk around.
That's correct. He has to.
Yeah.
He has to, because any error, whether it's his error, whether it's the mechanic's error, whether it's the plane error, any error, you pay the price up there.
True. And that one could cost lives.
Oh yes, Instead of just
That's a
money
good
from
thing
our
with
pockets.
RC.
Yes.
Nobody dies. But
Nobody dies.
the ego that's being
Well, you're not sure, right? Remember when? Oh gosh, when Cabo.
your ego does get a good shot.
Remember Cabo was coming down with his plane and man was in the bush.
Those are good days.
Yeah, those are good days.
Times. Yeah. But what well, I know we haven't seen you as much as we used to see you before. But what do you have now? What stuff do you have now? What model you have now? What brand? I mean, here I have my Align T-Rex TB60. But what do you have now?
Okay.
So that I could challenge you to come out and fly sometime soon.
Okay. First of all, let me tell you.
Dinosaurs, eh?
Let me tell you why I stopped flying. Let me tell you what time. Why the reason I stopped flying. I think something I liked about you, and folks, I don't big up the man in the channel. You're a very determined guy, right? And in the days when, for example, when we started flying helicopter, the commitment you had to helicopter, you'll come to me, we'll set up all night, you set up until you learn this setup stuff, and you already got efficient in that kind of stuff. Was that we used to lunchtime go out, make time, go and fly. So every opportunity we had, 2 people would fly would be me and you. And I admire that dedication. And the nice thing about that is that you used to encourage me. Based on what you do, I'm encouraged and all that. But after a while, I think we kind of had lost that. So I kind of drifted after that because I missed that kind of camaraderie, which was a big part of RC for me. I don't understand that for me. I was going through a rough period. RC was a savior of sorts. And then when guys joined in and they would come in, we used to sit back after and lime and talk, talk about basic men, like a men talk, varying topics. And that used to be a reinforcement and a support for me during that period of my life. And that had gone to some extent. I had missed that. So I kind of just stepped back a bit. But to answer your question directly, what's the plane again? Align? What's the Align one again?
You have the chopper you have?
The chopper I have this, you don't have this.
The 500?
500.
Yeah, Align. T-Rex, I think it's a 500.
Right? I have that still, which is fab. Like, there may be some part to change. And as you tell me, the batteries may be dead by now. But
those batteries might need changing by now.
But it's worth mentioning, though, that after we had formulated the kind of, when everybody began coming together, that I had moved into the cars. I used to enjoy racing the cars with you guys. The races was really beautiful. That become very official. So the race cars, I enjoyed. Also the boats. There's a period we did the boats. That was fun as well. Up and down with the boats. That was really great investment as well. And what I had gotten into, but nobody ever got into it, and so I didn't do it much as the motorcycle.
The motorbike.
Yes, I did buy the motorcycle. Nobody got into it much. I still have it. But I'm not so sure how good it is now. But
but as you said, boat and helicopter a while ago. I remember Grange Bay.
Oh yes.
Who was running a boat? Somebody, Gavin. I can't remember. Somebody was running a boat, and you had the helicopter.
Yes, flying around.
They're doing like Magnum.
Yes, man.
Yeah. And then it into water.
I ended up and bought some boots, like some, what do they call them? Pontoons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was digging and I found some parts from it. So from pontoons, as you talk of parts, what I think I'd liked about you two, and then when anybody had come in, after a while we used to real stock up on parts. I'm sure I can find parts on some stuff I no longer use anymore.
Plenty parts.
It's a stock up on the parts, so you could always be going, you know?
Plenty parts. You know, but do you own a sim now? Do you do more? You do some sim?
I had which was interesting.
Simulator.
Yes.
Now, over the years, what we have learned is that before we crash and spend all our money, you could buy a simulator.
Yes.
And practice this hobby on the computer. Even if it's cars, you could do that with cars as well. So you practice on the computer to get that hand-eye coordination and muscle memory.
Yes.
That doesn't guarantee that you're not going to crash.
Nope.
You're still going to crash.
Yeah.
But it aids in getting you there so that you be more comfortable and not crashing regularly. So that's what, when I say sim, I mean simulator. Right? I mean, to me, well, okay, the interviews about you, Collis, so you give me a take. What do you do now to keep?
Right.
Yeah.
First thing I want to comment, when I bought the simulator, and maybe I don't know if anybody would have learned to fly the hard way, had that experience. I bought a Real Flight, I think 5 simulator. And it was unreal.
Yeah.
it was just so different that it just couldn't. While it could assisted me in like some simple maneuver, it was difficult to from the real experience. And what it reminded me of, I remember I had to be on the sim because of that. And I also thought of maybe the way I learned. I could never get into the way the younger guys fly now, because like you remember one of the settings on the radio was the sensitivity of the stick. What you call it again?
Yeah, the
exponential.
Yeah.
I never used to fly exponential because there was a certain pride I felt
You want it direct
in direct feel of the helicopter, but that's also the direct crash as well, right? But I used to enjoy the direct feel, and I never got into the technology you guys use now to save to balance off the helicopter. It just felt like you were flying.
I don't think at those times we had all of that technology, you know, because
I know that's why it's now I'm talking about. What you do it now.
Oh, what we do
right,
now?
exactly.
Okay.
And I kind of struggle with that because for me, no, don't get me wrong, it's like a pilot taking off and putting the plane in what do they call it? Something fly the plane, an automotive.
Autopilot, yeah.
So you just sitting back not doing anything. I mean, where's the skill?
That's a big
so now you
debate,
guys fly these days.
That's a big debate. No, that's not how we fly. That's not the technology is there to use if you get into difficulty.
I get you.
But it's off when you're flying.
I get you.
Because recently, when we were flying at Black Rock, Mr. Leok's helicopter, I would have set it up for him. And when he came and started to hover it, he said it wasn't banking, you know, as though you know, you have your throw set at 100 or 50, that kind of thing. It wasn't banking. The sticks were all the way over, but it wasn't going. But then I figured out it was in safe mode.
I hear you.
So it's those sides. You know, when you took it out, you get the full bank. So you could switch those things off, and you could switch them on when needed.
I get you.
So it's like a crutch there if you need it.
Okay.
And that kind of thing.
I hear you.
You know? So that is a good thing now with the technology now. And then back then, the helicopters will fly bad.
Yes, fly bad.
Now they fly bad less.
Yes.
You know? So a lot of technology has gone into them. But tell me something, Collis. We spoke about crashing and all this. How do you handle, how you used to handle crashing? How you used to handle it as a big man? You know? By the stadium and you're flying and people watching. And
no, there are two phases to that. If you're flying by yourself in a crash, you only feel the money part of it. The money, your pocket.
Yes, true.
Right?
True.
When you're flying, whether it's with your comrades or people,
that
doesn't bother you, feel ashamed.
The money is important at that time.
And especially when men come to try what you did wrong, try to tell what you did wrong.
Yes, that is
now, you know your mistakes. Honestly, your first response is to defend yourself, which is unfortunate. And a man who's watching could really give you a more objective view. But when a man come to tell you stuff, man, you know, fight with your craft, but it must be hard to take sometimes, especially when you consider where you get the part from, and a man chucking to say, but you're too. So when you fly with company, Jason, you should remember. I was always thinking of that day, though. When we used to fly helicopters, we went down to an alpha competition.
Yes. True, down Shagaramas. Them days we was into the helicopters.
Viewers, Jason went out. Now, mind you, I trained Jason. Jason went out. Jason flew perfectly. In fact, when he brought it up,
we were. I think I came third. We would have gotten the maneuvers before.
Right.
So you had to practice.
Practice them. Right.
Yeah.
I went out.
I think I came third.
I went out, and and you'd think that I'm now flying. The helicopter is moving back and forth over the place. After a while, what did the guy tell me again?
I'm flying. Okay, what is happening is that when you go to fly, and there were some positions you would fly here
and move
and you have the flight line, and the instructor is behind you, calling out the moves.
Yes.
I think that's how it was.
Yes, that's how it was.
Moves and you doing the moves, and the man tells Collis, "Sir, can you fly in the bamboo, please? Fly closer to the bamboo."
there's a certain nervousness that was transmitted to the sticks. And part of the reason for my thing is that I never used to use Expo.
Yeah.
So if my fingers are shaking,
Yeah,
the helicopter transfers to the helicopter.
Translates to the helicopter.
I always remember that experience, you know. So flying by yourself or flying with people, two different.
That is true. That is true.
Excuse, two different things.
What do you prefer flying? Helicopters or planes?
I prefer flying helicopters.
You might think my questions are skewed to helicopters and planes, but I think as I get older in this hobby, like a drifting motor.
Yes.
I mean, something I could do.
Excuse.
On the whole, like get up and go and take a fly and come back, and you don't have to race with the next man with their car and that kind of stuff. That's just for me, you know. So my questions might be skewed in some nature to that. Yeah. So what do you prefer?
I prefer. While I love flying planes, I prefer helicopter because the first thing is space. You have to have space to fly.
True.
Fly a plane.
That is true.
Have to have space. You can create your own runway in some areas. Sometimes I don't hope you have a runway. But you have to have space.
Yeah.
With a helicopter, you can be in a house and fly the helicopter.
True.
Depending on how efficient you are. So I like helicopter because of that. And like you have said, you can do it on your own, in a sense. You know, you just get up and you go where to go. Yeah. I miss the plane though. I still enjoy the plane, but you need space. I mean, more.
You need space.
Yeah, you need space.
You need a runway.
Yes.
And that kind of stuff. And I think in somewhere, I don't want to say the Caribbean. I want to say Trinidad and Tobago. For me, not very big on hobbies.
Correct.
And nobody's putting out the investment.
Correct.
In that kind of avenue to fly planes and like a tractor race cars and stuff like that. But I remember years ago when I was in California, the weekend is a big thing for people out there. They're going and ride the ATV, they're going and race their boat, they're going and camp. Weekends, people live for the weekends and enjoy hobbies and go out and do that. But here's like there's this walk and dead, you know? So we don't have any space to fly the planes and so that kind of really went down. It kind of gone down
because nobody flies
right
as such.
Plane.
You know? And yeah, because we don't have the space. And I think we here in Tobago don't fully appreciate the therapeutic effect of having a hobby. And trust me, during my difficult period of my life, I came to realize just how critical a hobby is.
And you know, that was going to be my next question. You know, folks, if you see me watching down all the time, is the questions I have written down here to ask because I can't remember. I ain't gonna remember them. So they're on my phone here and I'm asking them for. So if I say I'm glancing down, another time I want to watch the camera or watch Collis, I'm trying to remember the questions. That was going to be my next question. You know, what this hobby, what outside of flying, you know, how this hobby has enriched your life outside of flying, and you just said it there. You know, the therapeutic and I mean, when you go and you fly and you practice something or a new move and you come home, but you're washing, where's your, you know, everything is a lot more smooth. You know,
I would say the hobby, RC in particular, saved my life. I mean, I would have gotten married very young. I think about 22. My marriage would have lasted 17 years. I'd have already built. I had a son.
Okay.
And to have the marriage fail at that point was a very traumatic experience.
Okay.
And I think when I picked up the hobby, it was the kind of therapy that I needed.
Yeah.
I had something to focus on. I had something that gave me a good feeling. That wasn't destructive.
Destructive to your pocket.
Yeah, destructive to your pocket. But undestructive otherwise. It also gave me a renewed sense of confidence. And I think I like that it didn't allow me to sink into self-pity.
Yeah.
Right. So it gave me, it really buffered me. And I'll advise anybody, I think I've said it before, in a different forum, anybody who is going through a rough period, pick up a hobby. Whether it's RC, it's fishing, it's
true.
But pick up a healthy hobby and it could really add value. I can definitely say that RC, has actually added significant value to my life.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I remember back in the days we used to pick up and go all over the island.
Yes.
Space side, fly, try to find different places to fly. You know, I think we go Canaan. We go so much places I can't remember so many. But what was your favorite place? What's your favorite place to fly?
well, funny enough, my favorite place still remains the
Bacalet.
stadium, Bacalet.
Yes.
Maybe because it was my first experience, and because we've done so many things there are a lot of good memories there.
Yeah.
As you talk about that, let me just mention something. One name I must mention is Pat Brooks.
Pat Brooks.
Yeah, Pat has, in my early days of flying, I remember when Pat joined, Pat would have just purchased, and that's the difference with the new RC pilots now. Pat would have just purchased a brand new plane. And those days, you remember the grey one? Remember the name of that one where you just kind of jet-like kind of plane?
Yeah, it's sweeping wings.
Yeah, sweeping wings on the side. And Brooks would have just bought that plane. I come to him and say, Collis, I want to fly this, put it up for me. And them days, that's how we learned.
Yeah.
An experienced person put it up in the air for you, you fly, and when I get in trouble, they come and they control. And Pat would have come with this brand new plane.
Yeah.
I said, Collis, put it up for me. I said, Pat, you could put it up for me. And I put up that plane and Pat would, and that's how Pat,
disclaimer. It could crash, you know.
Yeah, because you just buy a plane and boop.
Yeah,
and Pat, I put up that plane up in the air, and Brooks would, and that's how Brooks learned. And Brooks is an expert RC pilot now.
Yeah.
But
That glide slope, man.
Oh gosh, that glide slope, man.
Yeah.
I always think of Brooks in that sense. Brooks just come and say, put it up in the air.
Put it up.
And that's the difference. But what I like about him was that he listened, so he learned fast. I was able to control his plane. These days, young boys don't want to listen to any advice you give them about flying. They assume they know
everything.
Yeah, they know everything.
But I think it's not even just flying, it's on the whole.
True talk, that's true.
Because most young people know just say, I know. That's the first thing I know. I know.
So you can't share knowledge. Yeah, you can't really
that is true. Because I heard Mr. Leok recently on the radio giving an experience that we had at Bacalet with a guy. One day we were out there. I remember that clearly. A guy came, he went across by Demi side, check out the plane. You could see clearly never flew a plane before. He do a thing, and he take off and land back quick, headlong into the ground.
That's what it
Pull out the garbage bag, gather his pads, and jump to the car. And he go home.
At least he got the garbage bags right.
Right. But we were there,
and he could have asked.
We were flying.
Could have asked for help.
You understand? So he could have asked for help. But some people just probably. I know, you know. But as we're talking about those moments, what is your most memorable, funniest moment in this RC thing? Flying. Well, I know most of the memories and funny part gonna be with flying.
Yes.
It ain't gonna be with driving.
Yes.
It's gonna be with flying.
Yes.
What's the most memorable?
Well, I think one of the most memorable one for me was an embarrassing one.
Yeah.
I just put lights on. I just bought a fuselage.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember I paid £1.25 for that fuselage.
Yeah, I remember you had to get a broker to bring it in.
A broker brought it in. I didn't know about the broker part of it, and they charged me £1.25. It was very expensive.
Yeah.
Both what I paid for it and then having to pay the broker's fee. And I built the fuselage and I put the tit in. And I put some lights on. I bought some lights to it. There's some lights on the fuselage.
People, if you don't know what a fuselage is, it's normal the helicopters we have and we fly here like this. They call this a pod and boom, right? But guys would buy fuselage that mimic the real helicopters and put these pod and boom inside of that fuselage frame, so it looks like a real helicopter. Yep. So Collis would have. You were the first deal that bought in a fuselage to put your pod and boom in.
The army one.
So that is what he's talking about as a fuselage.
Yeah, and it's one of those the army ones with the guns and stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if I'm flying tail out, I can't see the lights as fancy because the lights are to the front of the helicopter.
Yeah. You have to be side on off.
So you have to be side on or yes.
Yeah.
I remember we were coming to the close of the flying time, and I'm excited with my lights because before I go home, I hadn't seen the lights, and I went up in the air. Just get it dark. Of course, time for the lights to show, and I went up with that helicopter. Not that high. And I turned around. Those days, I used to struggle a bit with facing.
Yeah. Nose in, yeah.
And partners, as soon as I see those lights, I lost control. But it looked beautiful for a moment. And that was it. At Jason, I never flew that. I never flew that expensive fuselage again.
Yeah.
Never did.
Yeah.
That was the end of that. Basically, the end of that fuselage. That fuselage cost me £1.25. I remember it because I was excited by the lights.
Yeah.
And it was also kind of funny that It was the day I dumped it as well. The last flight of the day was the day I dumped it.
Last flight, but I know what they challenge with the
Yes,
last flight.
that's not a challenging flight.
But I think my memorable occasion was one day flying. That time I had an electric 600, I think. And I remember those days, I mean, boy, things that I would have done then I can't even do now. I was doing some loops.
Yes, I remember the loops. Yeah, I used to do some really nice loops.
And then when I decided to come down, do the loop and then coming down now hard. Because we used to like to pull back and you hear
because I hear the blades. Yeah.
And Collis foot, I don't know, I fly straight into the ground for no reason, like my brain just freeze up. Vam! And fellas had to run out with extinguisher and all kind of things, but the battery catch a fire.
And the garbage bag. Don't forget the garbage bag.
The battery catch a fire and stuff like that. You know? But if that was from way back when, that was your thing to buy a fuselage, that thing, you have any aspirations still to, or any earmarked any helicopter that you would like to build and have put in a fuse in?
Yes.
No.
Interestingly, what I wanted to always build, and I hope I get a chance to do it, is the twin engine airplane. Because you're flying those airplane twin props.
Oh, okay.
I've always liked that. The balsa wood ones. Because you always those are the single prop to the front. Yes. I really want to build a twin prop.
Those are the big ones. Those are big.
Don't necessarily be that big, but I really like them. I want to build that. And what I wanted to do also was to do another helicopter in a fuselage. Yeah, another fuselage.
Next one? Helicopter?
Yes, helicopter. Put it in a fuselage. That's what I'm hoping I can do. But like I tell you, it's really been a great experience so far. And I wish I get back into flying as I used to.
Well, I really hope so, you know. Yeah, I really hope so. I really, really hope that you come back out and we get back to where we used to be. Because, Collis, you can imagine if we would have continued flying helicopters.
Yes, we would have been experts.
Till now?
We'd have been experts. Because we had a good crowd. We had a good crowd.
Yeah.
We had a good set of people, which is what I miss as well. We had a good set of people. People who encourage you to fly, people who empathize with you, people who wasn't afraid to lend your parts or give your parts. And I think some of that has changed. That kind of bothers me. I like the environment where there are lots of parts that you would have given to me, I'd have given to you. And I mean, that's how the game was, but now I so like how people kind of, you know.
Well, I guess times changes and so do men, you know. But I still think we have that camaraderie.
That we could pull it off.
And that we could pull that off, man. I think so. I really think so that we could still pull that off. You know, but as an old veteran in this hobby, right? What advice you have to give any young person who trying to get into not just this hobby? There are so much hobbies now, RC related. Yeah, cars, boats, trucks, drones. Well, the drones is a whole different thing.
Yeah, the whole
because you know most people, when they come out and they see a flying helicopter, the first thing they ask is how far it could go.
Yes.
And how much it costs. And that kind of thing.
That's true.
So what advice you could give to young people who trying to get in, not even young people, anybody who trying to get into the hobby, you know, now in 2025, because things have changed so much. They ain't got to crash and mash up so much things that but probably sometimes with some of the egos, they might have to crash and mash up. So
I like that question. Based on my experience, first thing I like to say is the importance of having a hobby. And I can vouch for RC because I've been involved in RC for quite a long time. I really believe we underestimate the value of RC, of having a hobby that you enjoy. I want to underscore and comment on the psychological benefit of that. Even the times when we leave work and just come and we fly for a bit or drive or whatever you're doing at the time of fly and then go back to work. Even that was relieving in a way. It kind of break the stress. So I kind of want to push for RC in a particular way because for me, my experience has been one way RC really relieves the stress, really gives you an opportunity to get into something outside of yourself. That is helpful. That's the one reason I put it forward for. What advice did I give? I think if young people, I think any young person engaged in RC in particular is going to find that they're going to like it. I'm serious. There's just something about okay, I would never become a real pilot, not at this age anyway.
Yeah.
But I can be a pilot outside with my helicopter, with my plane or my helicopter
Your
flying.
model, yeah.
Oh, I may not be a race boat person, but my model out of the sea, it's like I'm in that boat.
Yeah.
I may not be a real motorcycle racer or whatever, but I can have my, so I think it gives you the opportunity to be outside of yourself while actively involved. And I think if young people can find, because it takes a lot of time to learn,
Yes.
it takes a lot of time to commit, it can keep you out of unnecessary bad behavior and wasting time, right? So I would recommend that for young people in that sense. And for adults, especially given the time we live in, I really recommend RC as a help to break the tension and the monotony.
I remember a couple of years ago, when I left helicopters and got deep into the car and car racing and RC model car racing, we went to a couple islands and raced and stuff like that. But we would have kept our race here in Tobago.
Yes, I remember.
I think that was in, 2018 or something like that. Because in 2016 we went to Ecuador. So that could be 2018. And approximately, I can't remember, there were some people here from Curacao, Jamaica, Miami, Trinidad. So we had a good little race. But what I'm trying to get at is that, we would have tried to involve the authorities and
yes, I remember.
Getting it bigger and better.
I remember that.
And we weren't successful. So hobby is not really big on the agenda on this island.
Unfortunately,
right? So it's tough. We don't have any place to fly that we could call our home. You don't have any place to drive cars that you can call our home. So you have to be running around to every car park to try to compete with other hobbies, whether it be cricket or drag racing men or drifting men, and most people would like to be where somebody could see them.
Yes.
So the car park that you might like to go, somebody else competing for that car park. The airspace we used to have there, that's taken over now by the indoor facility and the parade square and that kind of thing. So, it's becoming very hard to do your hobby. That is why I am also probably gravitating to helicopters. The car park is really rough now and degraded. Can't really drive your car, it costing you a whole lot to keep it going. And even in Trinidad is, the bigger island, and they don't really have any car track as well. They have the plane guys have a place that they fly up in Caroni, I believe. So, but then if we had to travel down there every time, we could become a cost. But if we get someplace in Tobago where we could fly and drive our models, that would be so good. And if people looking on would do the research, they would see the impact that RC has away. It's a big hobby and a large following. Men would bring their families here for a weekend to fly or to race cars. They would. Because when we had our race, 9 people came from Jamaica, full out a whole guest house down in Buku. A set from Curacao, full out our next guest house. So it's heads on beds, as they like to say in tourism. Heads on beds. So if anybody who looking that has influence, it would augur well to, I don't know the big words, to really promote hobbies, right? By pushing for my hobby, RC cars and helicopters, a safe space where a man could fly, take a helicopter, and he go in there, fly here and go in and meet somebody in the field. Sometimes we go Black Rock. We normally go Black Rock now plenty, because Signal Comprehensive School, they have training, they have football, they have different things. You go there, sometimes you go there and you can't fly, we talk and we lime and we leave, because the time we go, sometimes it's unfeasible to go to our next field. We started going to Black Rock, sometimes we go Black Rock, now it have football. So we really would like a place that we would call a home for cars and planes and stuff like that. Because it's an investment in in the island, in people, young people and all. You know, it's an investment.
Well, I'm glad you underscore the tourism benefit to the island.
Collis.
Yeah, because I mean, for a man like you have traveled around with
Collis, I've been to Miami twice.
Yeah, with the
and
sport.
if you see the amount of people coming for a weekend of racing, it has so much racing. I remember clearly that you end up with like 3 or 4, 5, like 10 heats.
Yes.
Just for men to compete to get into the semis and into the finals.
And when you had done it in Tobago, people had come from where and where again?
You had people from Jamaica. We had 9, but I've been to Jamaica twice to race in the Jamaica Open International. So we had 9 people coming from Jamaica. We had people coming from Curacao. Can't remember how much, you know. We had people coming from Trinidad.
Yeah, some people from the States too. I remember this guy.
Yeah, remember in the earlys, we had Paolo Morganti and Reno.
Yes.
IGT at Reno.
Yes,
We had Paolo, for that time he was with Serpent.
Yes.
And things. So a lot of guys came here. Mike and Nate Lady, father and
son. And these are big names.
Big names.
Big names in the sport.
Paolo Morganti. Big driver. GT driver. He used to drive for Serpent then. Now he's driving for IGT8. Lino. He's the IGT8 guy. Right? Morganti now drives with him in that camp. Mike Lady. You had his son Nate Lady. You had this guy as well. Oh, good, the tall guy.
I remember his name.
I can't remember his name right now. It's slipping me now, by you know.
But just the point is, if a small one like you could organize that. Imagine the government if THA takes a serious interest in it.
We put our thing together. We bought the timing system and everything. That cost we a pretty penny. You know, the timing system to count the laps and thing, and really, we. Collis, you know what we did to pull that race off? You know what we did? Me, Gavin, Atkins. You know what we did? Personally here in Tobago, because we had involvement from Trinidad as well. Because in those days, at that time, we didn't really have the know-how to run the timing system and thing.
With now timing system.
But we bought one. We got one. So we had together and we got the timing system. I think that was about $12,000-13,000 at that time. It was plenty money. Right? But we got it with the transponders and everything. And so we know that we had our friends in Trinidad who could manipulate the system. So we got the computer and everything, and had that sorted out. And when I said, gentlemen, by how we ain't getting the sponsorship to get trophies and medals and all that, and because we went to other races and we see how the setup is, right? So we said, boy, you know what we're doing? Collis, if you go behind my house now, you're going to see the foul pen. I build a foul pen behind it, and we buy white foul. 200 white foul we buy, and mine them. But in phases.
Yes.
In phases. 100 was 50. I can't remember. No. Buy them, I would buy feed. Feed them. When that feed done, Atkins buy feed. Gavin buy feed. And we kept going so until the 6 weeks. Pluck them, put them in the car. We'd catch them fall, put them in bags, put them in the car, take them, get them plucked, sell them to friends and family. And that's where we got money to buy medals and trophies and stuff for that event. And never forget Mr. Leok as well. Mr. Leok gave us the fencing free of charge. He said, let's come and pick it up and bring it back to fence the venue and that kind of thing. I mean, we weren't charging anybody, but just to control crowd.
Yes.
And people might want to touch the cars and that kind of thing. And my wife brought the bouncy castles and things for kids and that kind of thing. So it was a nice event. The event came off well, you know, and that is something that I feel they could push on the island. People would come here, Collis, for that, with the sea, sun, fun,
and hobbies.
Race for a weekend. Yeah, because the people who came here as well, they went all about it. One time, barbecue pigtail was a big thing in Hope. The Maxi took them around, and it was nice. It was really good. Then we went to Ecuador. That was a nice experience as well, right? So,
but from what I'm hearing, if you could pull it off in Tobago, you and two other guys or 3 other guys could pull it off.
Yeah.
Then THA already had no excuse. Their fathers. Tea trip.
But since that time,
Make hobby a tourism, RC a tourism product or
Yeah.
any other hobby.
Yeah.
Make it a tourism product. That's what we say.
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
And but the only reason we haven't kept another race is COVID came and we were planning something and then COVID came and shut that down. And then after, it just hasn't picked up momentum as 25 now. And the Jamaica hobbyists, they lost their track during that time as well too. So it didn't really get back together as yet, but who knows? You never could tell. You never could tell, what can happen and when it can happen. But we had some good times, and I really believe that we could continue having good times if we have a place that we could call our home, right? To continue this great hobby.
Oh yes.
Well, Collis, but I don't know. I can't think of anything else. As I said that, I remember people don't knock the interviewer because it's the first time we're doing this, and we might be a little all over the place. I'm not a professional in this, but what just come in my mind as we're talking? What used to happen? You remember when we used to race cars by cards?
Oh yes, never forgot that.
By that little piece of land next to
and the kind of crowd used to bring by
next to
Beverly's is
not Beverly's
Viola's
place.
Yeah.
Next to Viola's place. I think Gavin had the hobby shop upstairs cards.
Used to draw a big crowd.
That was a big thing on Sunday afternoons. People used to look forward, line the highway. That time we was into buggies and chuggies.
Yeah, chuggies is a big thing.
Kind of thing. That was a big thing at that time.
Chuggies is a big thing then.
So we really had a good run.
Yes,
over 20 years.
We did.
Run.
We did.
I remember we went to Speyside as well. Had a nice fun day up there. So we had a good run, and I think that as I get older now, and you retired now,
retired,
and we're getting older, I more focusing on my hobby to de-stress, because life now is very stressful, extremely stressful. I don't know now that you retired how it's for you, but my working life is extremely stressful, and I really look forward. As I tell my wife from time to time, I look forward to Sundays to go and fly. If she tell me anything to disrupt my Sunday afternoon, it could really get me on my nerves, because I look forward. It's like I'm living and working during the week to do that on a Sunday at least, So I really, really like doing that. So, Collis, I don't know if you have anything else that you would like to say.
Definitely. Before you close off,
covered a wide range, but I still have to come by your house to take some pictures of your models and that big plane.
No problem.
I want to be able to see the biggest gas. I want to say gas. I mean gas like you're putting in your car. Pump gas. The biggest gas plane on the island of Tobago. This guy owns it, and it's in his house. On a wagonette up in the air. Right? So we will set a day to go and take some shots of all his toys that he still have at home. So we're trying to get him to come back out and do some flying.
I can't let you leave without bigging up at least two people. And the one I want to big up first is you. Right? When I got to know you, and you got into the hobby, you always took it seriously. You always pushed for improvement. You always pushed to have things at a certain level. And I always liked your commitment. In fact, that is probably why you're one of the best helicopter flyers we have in Bigo.
I ain't so sure about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason used to literally, Jason was one of those who would hover, what we call cut the grass, be the helicopter right down to the grass and boop, up in the air. And that's long. Mind you, I trained him, and I still couldn't have done that. I'm very committed to the RC, to his craft. Even when we were racing boats, was the same kind of commitment. And I want to commend you for that. I think it's one of the reasons that RC survived, that you've never given up on it. You're really committed. And I mean, even your channel is another way of moving forward. And even when a lot of us backed off for whatever reason, you kept going. I want to commend you for that.
I appreciate it.
Right?
I appreciate it.
The other person I want to big up is Maggie. That's my current wife.
Wife?
Yeah, Maggie. When I knew Maggie as my girlfriend, I was into the sport in a big way, and my money was going there. Yeah. And Maggie was always supportive. Maggie always came with me. Maggie would pick up stuff for me on Trinidad when I couldn't get down there.
I remember that.
She never made me think I'm spending money like on my own. Say, we're spending money on, Being my girlfriend, she stood at me during that period, and it meant something to me. And then when I flew well, and she commended me and bigged me up. When I met the end, she said, baby, oh God, I like myself. You know?
I remember those days. Maggie was your number one cheerleader.
Number one cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. I have some videos, and I go back and look at them, and I have to laugh just how supportive she was. And even as she became my wife, that didn't change.
Yeah.
So I want to thank her for never telling me I couldn't do this or trying to stop the hobby, because, you know, she knew it was costly, but she allowed me that space, and I value that. And therefore, it's a shout. I kind of caution to women too. A man needs a space to do his thing.
Obviously.
Right? And if his hobby is fishing, let him spend money on the fishing. You know, I mean, they buy fancy rods and stuff. If it's RC, let him give him a little break.
From the Collis, as you talk about that, we do that too. We fishing too, you know.
Of course.
We used to fish. We
used to fish.
Buy all kind of rod and ball, beach all behind like. I remember the day we went behind like Snowfish, and I catch a nice.
Oh yes, I remember.
Proud of the fish gave me a good fight. Proud of the fish, boy, bring it on. You had a like a cage thing.
Yes, nice to put
your catch in.
Yes, I remember.
But I put my thing, I'm feeling so
proud of the fish.
And a man passed and asked me,
Who catch that?
Who catch that? That time I feed your dog. I was so proud of my fish. So we
folks, for clarity, that's one of those fish that just give you a good fight. Does really give you, I forget the name of it, but gives you a good fight, but it's not one of the fish. But not the fish that you eat. They have a lot of bone. Not the fish that you really eat.
You know? So all those were really, really good times.
Yes,
we did really do a lot of stuff together. And as you would have spoken in the early, we kind of drift apart over the years. I really hope we get that back together, because we're to come back on the field. We have all those models home there. Gathering dust.
I'll come back. It's just that I'm into fixing cars a lot. I enjoy that. That's another hobby I have. Yeah. But I plan to come back into the RC. But I also should add that one of the big things at RC that I hope we can go back to is the lineman that we used to have after, the man-to-man talk we used to have, the space where men could talk about almost anything, right? I missed that.
I don't know if you saw the video I had put up recently.
I put up a video on it? Okay, I'll look at it.
I would have called it, well, all these things are tentative. I would have called it after RC discussion or something like that, I think I call it. And I put it up on the channel. As I speak, I don't even know what the name I'm going to call this. If it's RC Chronicles, I don't know. But it's just, it will evolve.
Yes, definitely.
It will evolve, right? Definitely. So, but I want to promote that as part of the channel as well. Not just the flying, but after we done the flying, we normally had a good nice conversation. Wide-ranging views, whether religion, relationship, work, politics, a lot of stuff, not just RC. So it was really, really good fun. Yes, so that is something that I would definitely be continuing. So even if it's that alone you're coming from,
because that was something it meant a lot to me then. It still does now. That where men can have a safe space, just because it was really just men there. We just talked.
That is true. Right?
So thank you for having me, Jason.
Yeah, Collis, thanks for coming and
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. And thanks again for coming, man.
Yeah, man, no problem at all.
We get you back on the field soon.
Definitely,
right? So, thanks again for looking at the channel. This channel is, as I said, is basically to promote the hobbies that we are into. And I'm pretty new to the YouTube thing, so go easy on me in the comments and stuff like that. And we grow the channel from what is the word we're using? From strength to strength, right?
Definitely.
And thanks for viewing.
Thanks again, Jason.